Hey people, what's going on? I thought I'd come back and make a second video just to elaborate a little bit more on my experience with the Jehovah's Witness religion. It's about a little after 9:30 a.m. Sunday morning, and I figured it was a perfect time to talk about this particular subject because, well, my husband, he's actually at the Kingdom Hall for a meeting of what Jehovah's Witnesses call worship. But anyway, just to give you a quick background on me, I'm 29 years old, been married for 3 years. I've known my husband since 2009, and you know, he's mentioned the Jehovah's Witnesses to me off and on. I mean, I remember vaguely a little bit about them. They used to come to my door way back when and hand out, you know, the Awake and Watchtower magazines, and I never really paid any attention, or and I just thought they were another religion. I didn't really know what they were all about until more recently. But I stopped going to meetings in, what, 2014, May 2014, the end of May. Like I said, I do have a background of being a Catholic, well, really just through my family. My mom and grandma had me baptized as a baby, you know, as is the tradition. And you know, I always had the feeling, or I always sensed that something wasn't right about it. You know, like as far as the whole teaching about people suffering after death, and an eternal place of torment like hell. Well, that really turned me off. And so I guess when I started studying with the witnesses, and I found out that they believe in, they don't believe in that type of thing, well, that was appealing to me. Of course, you know, to live forever on a paradise earth, and you know, all these great prospects, and then, you know, there will be no more suffering. You know, and really they take, I wouldn't say take advantage, I mean, but they do seek out for what they call right-hearted ones. And what that means is people who are probably going through something. It could be financial difficulties, any type of struggle. You know, they definitely seek out people such as single mothers, someone who's depressed, or is just dealing with the loss of a loved one. You know, a death in the family. You know, as a matter of fact, I actually just lost my grandma on January 17th. May she rest in peace. But you know, of course, I hadn't spoke to some of the people at the hall for a while, and then I got a few text messages, you know, saying they were sorry for my loss and all that, and even, you know, a card, which that was a nice sentiment. And they mentioned, you know, like the scriptures on resurrection, like what was it, John chapter 5 verses 28 and 29, about how all those in the memorial tombs will come out and be resurrected. So you know, I'm not saying I don't know, it's hard to say what I believe right now, because I just feel so disenchanted with the whole idea and aspect of religion. I just don't know, and I feel like I've been lied to. But let me get into this a little bit more. Let me expound on my experience here. As I mentioned in my first video, one thing that I really, again, I couldn't reconcile within my mind, I just couldn't understand, like, the whole failed prophecy of 1975. And when I did sit down and discuss this with my Bible teacher, her and her husband, you know, I'll give them credit. They were very thorough. They tried to read me scriptures and stuff. And of course, one of the key scriptures that was used was the one in, gosh, I don't know if it was, I could be wrong. I think it's in Proverbs. But it talks about the light getting brighter and brighter. And again, I could be wrong about that. I forgot which book that was in. Forgive me. But so they use that as basically the backbone for, well, for the defense of the Watchtower Society. And of course, the governing body and the Watchtower leadership was viewed as basically flawless, without fault. And then the blame was then shifted onto the rank and file members, meaning just regular Jehovah's Witnesses. As is the case usually, they never seem to put the responsibility, the weight of the decisions on the actual leaders, who are the ones that are putting out these doctrines. Okay. So yeah, a little bit about that time and era. It was definitely warned about Armageddon as coming in 1975. And like I said, it was mentioned as more than just a mere possibility, but people really thought, well, the leadership really emphasized the fact that it was a probability that this may come. This most definitely could come in 1975. The time of the end was very near. And based off of some chronology chart or some research that they supposedly done at the time, they thought that, yeah, when 1975 hit, the world would be ending, and you know, paradise would be here, you know. So what people did at the time, a lot of members that were faithful and loyal to the organization, they they sold their homes. A lot of young people didn't even finish high school because they figured what was the point with the new system approaching. And they even they gave all their money or donated their money to the Watchtower Society. And you know, if you look at it like that, you think, wow, this was a perfect scheme to get money. You know, the Watchtower definitely received a lot of money. I mean, even in 1978, I think it was recorded they had some millions, and I'm not sure, I'm not going to quote a figure here because I want to make sure that my information is accurate, but I remember reading something to that extent. And you know, they definitely played off of people's vulnerabilities and paranoia about Armageddon. I mean, the leaders, they really took advantage of people, and you know, hey, and they went along with it. And so to this day, members, and by the way, the members that I was speaking to are my Bible teacher and her husband. They're very young. They wouldn't remember this. I mean, they were born in the 1980s as I was, so there's no way of really knowing what happened. And you know, I wanted to talk to some older people, but again, they're just going to sanitize the history of the Watchtower and whitewash it to make you believe, oh, they're just, you know, infallible. They're so perfect. You know, they could never do anything wrong, you know. So I just really wasn't satisfied, again, with the answers that I was getting. And, you know, I craved to know the real truth behind all of this. And so that's when I, you know, went on researching, and I found out some things that were maybe shocking at the time. And at first I just tried to, you know, put it in the back of my mind and forget it, you know, and say, oh no, this can't be, you know, I found the true religion, I found the one true faith. And also another interesting thing, when I was reading the book Crisis of Conscience by Raymond Franz, again, he was a former governing body member, and I highly recommend that book, by the way. You can actually get it in PDF form. I was able to download it on my phone, so that's just perfect. But in the beginning, he talks about, actually he had left some quotes there that were left in early Watchtower publications, like in the 1800s. And one quote that sticks in my mind is the one that reads, beware of organization, it is wholly unnecessary. So what does that tell you? You know, like, if a Jehovah's Witness were reading that today, they would probably label that as being an apostate, or apostate literature, should I say. So it's just crazy how things have changed since then. Because I don't remember, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't see anything in the Bible that specifically states you have to be a member or a part of an organization in order to be saved when Judgment Day comes. You know, hey, you know, if someone knows a scripture that I can go to, feel free to point it out, you know, leave a comment below. I mean, I'm open to hearing it, but I mean, I'm not saying I'm a Bible expert, but I've studied it for a while to know that that's definitely not something that's in there. And another thing that's not in there is the strict rules people have on their, or should I say the Watchtower has on their members. And right now it's sort of like it's an unwritten rule. It's not really spoke of too much, and as a matter of fact, it really isn't even mentioned too much in any of their publications lately. I think the last article that came out about that, intimacy between married couples was in 1983, so you could see that they really haven't updated it. And I'm talking about, of course, certain practices, sexual practices between married couples, like oral sex. As I mentioned, an elderly brother took it upon himself to speak out against this so-called immoral act in front of everyone in the congregation, including children. I mean, mind you, these are young children, 4 or 5 years old. I mean, they don't even know what the heck oral sex is. I mean, that, to me, that's perverted and twisted right there to even talk about that. But boy, if I were to speak out, you know, and part of me wanted to, you know, but I bit my tongue, which I kind of regret, but part of me wanted to make a comment and say, well, you know, it's not up to us as individuals to judge other people's intimate affairs, or you know, try to impose our conscience upon others. That's just crazy, you know, because really, truthfully, we don't know how God feels on that subject matter. And I really think the reason it's not mentioned or explicitly condemned in the Bible is because God decided to leave that between married couples. That's a personal decision. He you know, he left the marriage bed as being private for a reason. He didn't sit there and give out rigid rules on what to do and what not to do in the bedroom, because he felt that that is between married couples alone, and that's the only people who should be involved in such private matters. So I don't know, that's what I have to say about that. But yeah, you'll go back and you'll read some publications from the Watchtower Society, primarily from the 1970s, and man, my gosh, in the early 70s, members were getting disfellowshipped, and by disfellowshipping, that means you get expelled out the congregation, you get kicked out, so to speak, after having what they call a judicial committee, and you know, that it's basically like sitting in front of a judge, and that's what it is. I mean, I never went through all that. Fortunately for me, I never became an official member, you know. I never was baptized, and now that I look back on it, I think I made the right decision. But yeah, I mean, it's crazy. Like, they would actually sit there and investigate married couples' private lives. And there was one case that I read in Crisis of Conscience where somebody was in a married couple's room in the 70s, and they found some pornographic magazines, and they, you know, that were actually showing certain acts like oral sex. Okay, so then this member went and squealed, if you will, on them, and told their local elders, and then they got the married couple in trouble, and they both got disfellowshipped. Now, I don't know the names of the people, and some people may say, well, how do we know that's accurate? Well, it sounds like it could very well have happened, you know, just because how strict and dogmatic a lot of the Watchtower rules are. You know, that's horrible. I mean, I know it put a lot of strain on married couples, because just imagine, like, you're being told, or you're being told that you can't do a certain thing that may bring pleasure to you in your marriage, and of course it's definitely gonna put some tension there, because one person may crave it and the other person may want to actually go along with what the Watchtower subscribes, so or prescribes, should I say. So yeah, it's hard, you know. It would definitely be hard, and it tore a lot of people up. It tore a lot of couples up, from what I heard, and that's just not right. The damage and destruction that they imposed on married couples over something that's not even in the Bible. I mean, the Bible even says we shall not go beyond the things that are written, and again, I don't know exactly what scripture that is. It could have been Thessalonians, but I'll have to look that up. But yeah, I think I'm going to end this for now. I've mainly just touched upon 1975 and also the Watchtower poking their noses in people's marital lives where they don't belong. And again, I may come back for more videos. I'm just kind of new to this whole thing, so again, forgive me if I come across as a little unprepared. I'm just kind of winging it here, playing it by ear. So hopefully you enjoy, and if you'd like, feel free to hit the subscribe button and comment below. Alright, thanks.